Sources familiar with the plans of Robert Mueller, who's working inside this Washington, D.C. office building a mile from the Justice Department, predict tonight that he'll finish his report as early as mid-February. They expect he'll answer the question given to him 18 months ago: were there any links or coordination between the Russian government and the Trump campaign to influence the election? It's still unclear whether Mueller will touch President Trump himself. Legal experts believe Mueller's team has long had Trump's tax returns. Already, the legal morass has engulfed 4 people who worked on the Trump campaign or the White House and have pleaded guilty. And potentially worse for the president, his former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, has implicated him in 2 campaign contribution felonies stemming from hush money payments to 2 women. Federal prosecutors in New York could turn out to be a continuing legal headache for the president, looking into his financial dealings and those of his companies and members of his family, analyzing Trump tax returns and credit reports.
Those 2 things give you leads. What types of leads do they give you? Financial leads. Where's the money coming from and where is it going? And oh, by the way, it's not that hard to get.
The president has insisted there never were any conflicts between his business interests and the nation's foreign policy.
I have nothing to do with Russia. To the best of my knowledge, no person that I deal with does.
But Michael Cohen, the former Trump lawyer, says dealings with Russian officials about a Trump tower in Moscow actually continued well into the campaign and that Mr. Trump knew about them. New York's Attorney General forced the Donald J. Trump Foundation to shut down and give away its remaining assets, calling it little more than a checkbook for Mr. Trump's business and political interests. And the attorneys general of Maryland and Washington, D.C. may seek Trump's tax records in their lawsuit. They claim his ownership of the Trump Hotel here in Washington violates the Constitution's ban on public officials getting foreign financial benefits. They say foreign leaders hoping to get in President Trump's good graces patronize the hotel, benefiting him financially.
No other president has ever run a business and actually sought business from foreign sovereigns and domestic sovereigns while being president.
As for Mueller's core mission, he has charged associates of Vladimir Putin with orchestrating a social media campaign in the U.S., using fake sites that claim they were set up by Americans to attack Hillary Clinton. And Mueller charged Russian intelligence officers with hacking into Democratic computers to steal and leak thousands of campaign emails. President Trump repeatedly says Mueller has come up empty.
There's been no collusion.
There's no collusion.
And you know why it's going to be just fine? Because there was no collusion.
So the coming weeks will provide answers to some lingering questions. What happened at the June 9th meeting in New York's Trump Tower, with Russians claiming to offer derogatory information about Hillary Clinton? And did anyone in the Trump campaign help the Russians get and spread the hacked Democratic emails? What does it all mean for Donald Trump? Very likely not criminal charges, most experts believe. Impeachment is unlikely, too, with Republicans still controlling the Senate. And as the Mueller team shuts down, Democrats will take control of the House, re-energizing congressional investigations of the campaign and the White House, with the final revelations from Robert Mueller yet to come. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.